Hello, everyone. I'm Melissa Budzinski, and I'm from Gilda's Club, Grand Rapids. We're a free cancer and grief support community. If you're on a cancer or grief journey and you'd like to know more about our community, we'd love to talk with you and get you connected. You can give us a call at 453-8300 or look on our website at www.gildasclubgr.org. I'm so glad that we could all come together today on this very hot, bright day. I love it that it's summer, yay, on Facebook, and that we can be together and spend some time reading a book and doing a craft. So if you have a comment or you have a question or you want to know more about something or you want to tell us about something or you really liked this particular program, please like our post. You're welcome to share it with whoever you want. It is being recorded, and so it will be on our archived page in our Facebook and our YouTube, so you can access it again and watch it as many times as you'd like. So today I have a very special guest with me. I'm very excited. It's Jenny Kinney, and she is, hi Jenny, welcome. It's so good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Jenny is a bookseller and a proud owner of a Grand Rapids progressive and consciously curated and fiercely independent, I love that,
you got it,
neighborhood bookstore called Books and Mortar. And you can find them right on Cherry Street. And I have been there many, many times, and I just really love it. She's a Grand Rapids native with a deep love for books and for community building. She's always been a huge fan of Books and Mortar since they opened in 2016 and then became the owner in 2018. Yay! And she has a background in public policy and a hope to instill her passion in advocacy and political activism as a facet in her store. So running a community-minded independent bookstore has always been a lifetime dream of Jenny's, and she feels very lucky to be able to live out that dream every single day. And I want to say many of the books that we read right here on our Facebook Live program have come from her store. So welcome again.
Thank you so much for having me, Melissa. I'm super excited to be here, and it's strange to hear a more formal introduction read of oneself, but everything you said is right on. I've always dreamed of being a bookseller and to be a bookstore owner in my hometown and have it be this beautiful progressive space with all of the books I could dream of. I can't think of something I'd want to do with my time more. So I so appreciate you inviting me on here to read one of my favorite children's books today.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, thank you. Well, I certainly rely on you and your ability to curate the offerings you do that have such a great, not only just emotional health impact or discussion, but it also is they're written by people of color and people of ability and just such a wide range of people. And I love that. Yeah.
Thank you. That's one of my favorite parts of the job, and definitely a part of the job that I feel the most responsibility in, right? So when you say a bookstore is consciously curated, that's like a very fancy way of saying that I and my coworkers work really hard to make sure we know every single book that comes into the store, and that books come from authors and storytellers of all sorts of different backgrounds, from different places around the world, different ages, like you said, different abilities, races, ethnicities, genders, sexualities. And the goal is to make sure that anyone who walks into this bookstore can find a home, not only in the bookstore, feel comfortable here, but also find a home in books, find characters they can relate to. And I know that I do that through books all the time, as I learn so much about other people, but also about myself through through all of these different books. So we work really hard to pick out good ones.
Oh, that and it really shows. It really shows. I have a hard time getting out of there without, you know,
I get
like,
you.
oh, my husband's like, how many books did you buy today? And we have no children at home, but I keep buying the children's books. So,
well, that's just awesome.
yeah. And in a time right now where it is so important to give permission to tell your story and also to be able to hear people's stories. It really, I mean, it's always important to have bookstores that are culturally competent like yours is, but it is especially important now. So thank you for that.
I agree, especially after the year that we've been through.
Yes.
We need great storytelling in our lives, to listen to other people's stories and have those available to us, but then also learn how to tell our own too. So I agree entirely.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So today we have this great book and a craft for you. And the book is called Ruby Finds a Worry by Tom Percival. And so why did you pick this book, Jenny?
Oh, this book is one of my favorites right now. I love it. One, it is beautiful. The colors and the illustrations, which I'll show you, they just pop. They're magnificent. And I think the reason I connected to this story, and some of this you'll see as I'm reading it, but I am a person who tends to worry a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Whether that's
my dog is worrying right now. Let me just pet him. I don't know if you can hear him, but he's back here.
I have a
worry dream
dog too. Yes, I've got like a.
So I'm sorry about interrupting you.
No, you're great. I have a dog with a lot of worries too.
Yes.
We share that, the two of us. And so yeah, I find myself worrying about large and small things all the time, and it's been really hard for me growing up and becoming an adult, of learning how to live among my worries and make sure that I can still be my best self even when I'm scared, or even when something feels really heavy and I'm having a hard time getting past it. And one of the ways that I've always done that is through books. So to have a book that speaks directly to what it feels like to be worried and what it feels like to be worried as a kid, because I worried all the time as a kid, and I often didn't feel comfortable talking to people about it. So I love the journey in this book that the character takes of learning what a worry is and then what you do when you come face to face with your worry or somebody else's worry. The last year has been really hard. Yeah. I know, especially in the last year, my a lot of things that I'm afraid of or worried about have felt very big. So I think now is the right time to be reading this book, and having these kinds of talks about what we do when the world feels heavy.
Yes. Oh, I completely agree. Thank you for talking about that and saying those personal things. Really appreciate it, because also we have to give the children in our lives and the adults sometimes permission to know that worry is just normal and natural. Yes. It is a part of who we are and our lives. And I love that you talked about living with your worries. We're not trying to never have a worry again. It's learning how to manage our worries, because they come up. They're going to be there for our whole lives. And and when you're on a cancer and grief journey, which many of us are, and COVID and everything that has happened in the past year has created even more worries and a lot more grief. So I think it's a very essential conversation to have. So all right, well, let's get reading the book, and then afterwards we'll get together and do a craft. Okay,
that sounds great. Yes.
Great.
Thanks, Melissa. All right, so I already showed you the cover of this a little bit. I'm going to do my very best as I'm reading to show you the illustrations, and because they're incredible. But obviously, this is here in the store too, if you ever want to come and take a look at it. So this book is called Ruby finds a worry. And I just love this Ruby character. So I hope you'll learn why I love her so much as we read. All right. Ruby finds a worry. Ruby loved being Ruby. She loved to swing up high. I love how happy she looks in this photo and how free. And she loved to explore wild, far away places. Sometimes she even went all the way to the very bottom of the garden. Ruby was perfectly happy until one day she discovered a worry. It wasn't a very big worry. You can see that's the worry there. Little small, not really sure what it is yet. And you can see that she's a little confused in this photo when the little worry appears. In fact, it was so small that at first Ruby hardly noticed it at all. But then the worry started to grow. And each day it grew a little bit bigger. So you see when the worry starts, it's this tiny little thing on the bench. But then as time passes, it gets bigger and bigger until it looks like it's about her size there when she's reading. It just wouldn't leave her alone. It was there at breakfast, staring at her over the cereal box, and it was still there at night when she brushed her teeth. You can see how big the worry has gotten there. And it just won't let her be. The funny thing was that no one else could see Ruby's worry, not even her teacher. So Ruby pretended that she couldn't see it either. You can see her whole classroom, and Ruby's got the worry behind her, and she's doing her best to not see it and to ignore that worry. She tried to carry on as if everything was normal, but it just wasn't. The worry was always there, stopping her from doing the things that she loved. So in this picture here, you can see the worry is so big. It's on the swing with her, and it's either stopping her from swinging, or maybe it makes her not want to swing at all. Have you ever had that happen where you're so worried about something that you can't do something you love? I know that that's happened to me. Ruby wondered if the worry would ever go away. What if it didn't? What if it stayed with her forever? Ruby didn't realize it, but she was doing the worst thing you can ever do with a worry. She was worrying about it. You can see this photo. Ruby's so worried about the worry itself that it's making her worry even more all day long while she's doing all of her life things. She's so worried all the time. Now the worry was enormous. Look at how big it's grown. It could barely fit in the kitchen at dinner time, and it filled up half the school bus. And it took up whole rows at the movie theater. The worry became the only thing that Ruby could think about, and it seemed like she would never feel happy again. I know I felt that way too. When I felt super worried, sometimes I've wondered if I will ever feel happy again, and that's a really hard feeling. Then one day, something unexpected happened. Ruby noticed a boy sitting alone at the park. He looked how she felt, sad. And then she noticed something else, something hovering next to him. Could it be a worry? You can see this boy has his own worry. It's a blue one, sitting right behind him. It was. Ruby realized that she wasn't the only person with a worry after all. Other people had them too. She asked the boy what was on his mind, and as he told her, the strangest thing happened. His worry began to shrink. So you can see as Ruby starts talking to this boy, his blue worry is getting smaller. Then Ruby did the best thing you can ever do if you have a worry. She talked about it. As the words tumbled out, Ruby's worry began to shrink until it was barely there at all. Soon, both of their worries were gone. And I love this illustration. I know it's kind of big for the screen, but you can see as Ruby is talking, the worries are getting smaller and smaller and smaller within the rainbow until they disappear. Finally, Ruby felt like herself again. Of course, that wasn't the last time she ever had a worry. Everyone gets them from time to time. But now that she knew how to get rid of them, they never hung around for very long. You got the small worry at the end. And I want to show you this. I think I skipped past this picture a little quickly, but you can see, or maybe you can't quite see in the camera, Ruby's looking behind her at this little worry, and she has a little smile on her face, as if she recognizes the worry and it's going to be okay because she knows what to do. So we end with a small worry. The end.
That was great, Jenny. Oh my goodness, what a beautiful book.
I love that book. Do you mind, Melissa? There's a small letter from the author at the back. Do you mind if I read that real quick?
Not at all. Go for it.
Yeah, so the author wrote us a little letter. So he says, "Dear reader," so it's anybody who's reading, doesn't matter what age. He writes, "This is a book about a girl who can't get rid of a worry. Everyone worries about things from time to time, and it can be hard to stop. Even though we can't see our worries like Ruby can, they're there with us. Ignoring them can sometimes make them worse. So here are a few questions to ask yourself when you think you have a worry stuck to you." So if you feel like you've got a worry on your shoulder right now, or even if you don't, but you know that one is going to come and find you eventually, there's some really good questions you can ask yourself. And I know we'll talk more about how we can do this in a second, but I just love these questions. So the first question is, what am I feeling? Am I feeling sad, angry, anxious? Am I feeling all of those things at once? The second question is, what would be causing me to feel that way? What is making this worry happen? And the third is, who can I talk to about it? Because as we learned in the story, talking about a worry is so very important. And remember that you should always feel comfortable talking about your worries. Be open, be honest, be you. So it's a letter from the writer.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What a neat letter. Yeah, that's so great. Oh, what an incredible book. And I just love the illustrations.
I do too.
Are so expressive. The words are important, but those illustrations are just really impactful.
Yeah, it's a truly beautiful book. I enjoy it every time I read it and look at it. And there is something about, you start with Ruby with this worry and everything is a little gray, and you have these pops of color where worry shows up. And then as she learns to talk with other kids about their worries and becomes less lonely and becomes more comfortable feeling worried, all the colors explode. So you get these rainbows and these happy feels. And by the end, you really feel like Ruby is leading her best life. Like I like that about it, how the color explodes toward the end.
And I think that is such a great example of what happens inside of us when we start to have a worry and we start to see everything kind of in this gray way and feel it in that way, and it feels heavy. And you can see that she feels lighter and lighter and lighter, and in just how she's moving in the pictures and all of that. So it's very reflective of that. And I love it is so important that a couple of things is that she hadn't had that experience before. And so she had this piece of self-awareness of, oh, I've got to worry. And she had this experience, and she didn't just say, oh, that's that experience, I'm never going to do that again. But she'd applied it to her life, and she took it on as her own knowledge. Okay, so this really worked for me. And so she wasn't as scared when that other worry showed up. She's like, oh, okay, I know what to do. And she felt resilient and competent about managing her own emotional health.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the, a lesson that I'm still learning, and I know that I'll need to learn it over and over again, is that instead of trying to run away from feelings like worry or fear, try to bury them, ignore them, pretend that they're not happening because they're hard, right? And sometimes we want to just ignore them. It's a matter of becoming comfortable with them, knowing what they are, knowing how and when you need support, friends, because these feelings are going to hit you no matter what. So learning how to live with them is, as opposed to, avoiding them or running away from them, is so important.
Yeah. There's a saying that I have heard that I just love is courage is not the absence of fear or worry, but it is doing the next right thing, even with that fear or worry, which is really what Ruby did when she saw that other young man sitting on the bench and saw his worry, that she started to focus on him. So it sort of took her outside herself for a second, and she reached out and helped him. And then in helping him, she was able to help herself. So she didn't get bogged up in the worry at that moment. She was able to step forward and do what she knew was right, and invite him into conversation.
And I love that part of the story too, is just a reminder that when you're feeling worry or hard feelings, those are often the best ways to create community and empathy, right? Those open you up to other people. So when you're feeling hurt or when you're feeling down, as hard as that is, it creates an opportunity for you to see in other people when they're feeling hurt and down. And having that ability to have empathy and to be open with other people is only going to make you and whatever community you're a part of stronger. So it's hard, but it also gives you special powers.
Yeah.
You're able to connect with people in better ways, more honest ways.
And that is where emotional healing happens. And that is exactly, you just perfectly said what Gilda's Club is there for. And it's why we're 100% free, because we want to give people a safe, confidential space where it's non-judgmental, where they can connect with people who are on this, having the same experience as them. Everyone's experience is unique to them, but the overreaching, either grieving the death of someone or managing an illness of cancer, can bring up lots of worries and lots of questions, lots of fears. Who's going to take care of me next? Where are we going to go from here? What's going to happen in our life? A lot of times, especially with grief, is children, death doesn't necessarily come into our lives, or it comes into our consciousness if we haven't had a death in our life. And once it does, and that's a possibility, it can come with a lot of worry about the reality of the fragility of life. And so having a place where you can talk about that and say whatever it is you need to say, and have other people just listen, also understand, and then help you to find a way to express it in as many ways as possible, is really, really healing. To find out you're not alone in this.
Heroic and such important work. And one of the reasons I'm deeply honored to be a part of this today with you and with Gilda's Club. And I can only imagine for all of us, the last thing we want to feel is alone, right? So when we're going through hard things, the first thing we need is our community.
That's right.
And that's sort of like the base of our needs. We're like, we need our, obviously you need food, shelter, water, like those are the things that'll come first, but then you need people that you can share your life with and not feel like you're just living alone in grief or fear or worry. I admire that work so much that you do.
Thank you. Yeah, it's quite an honor. So we should probably get moving and doing our
craft time.
So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit just about a worry box. And a worry box is something that you could have at home. We use the word box very loosely. It could be a bowl. It could be, I got water in this right now, but it could be a cup if you have that. It could be a shoebox. It could be whatever. And I do have one to show you in a bit. But it's a place where It actually, now I'm going to back up a little bit. It also can be in here and in here. It doesn't have to be a physical thing. It could be, it's just a place where when you are coming upon a worry, it has shown up in your life. It's a place where you can put it for a little while, for the rest of the time, however long you want to. But a moment where you can ask those questions that the author wrote to us, how am I feeling? What is this about? And what do I need to do? You can write it down. You can think about it. You can imagine yourself putting it in a box. You can even imagine, what color is my box? How big is my box? Does it have a lock on it? Do I have the key? Is it in a special room? Or you can create your own box, which we're going to do in just a few minutes. So there's so many ways that you can create this worry box and ways to use it. You could think of those worries and express your feelings, write it down on a piece of paper and put it in the box. You could, it helps you to understand that you can take control of that worry, just like Ruby did, where she sat down and really her friend showed her, oh, talking about this is making that worry shrink. I can take control of that situation. I can talk about this. And so she did. Or you can park them. You can put them in your bowl for a minute and think, I want to take care of this a little bit later. Right now is not a good time. And we all kind of do that as we go on. When we're, I remember a story of a young man. He was taking a test at school, and he put down his pencil after the test, and he immediately remembered something about his father who had died just a couple of months before. And he was overwhelmed with grief in that moment. He had no idea that was going to happen. He had no idea he was going to think about his dad. He wasn't thinking about his dad in the moment. And it started to mess with his focus for school. So he just took a minute to think about it and put it away in his own heart, in his own mind, and decided he was going to talk to his mom about it when he got home. And so he was able then to focus back on school and do what he needed to do, and then address it when he got home. So things like that happen. They happen to adults. I know they happen to kids. So you can park them. And then later on, you can decide how you're going to tackle that situation, who you're going to ask for help, or if you're just going to accept a situation and move on from there. You can also do it and let those feelings go. Like, okay, I don't really need to worry about whether it's going to rain today or not, because I don't have any control over that. I just need to prepare. I bring my umbrella with me if I'm going outside, but I can just let that go and know that I'm prepared for that. So there's lots of different ways that you can use that worry box. The other thing is, and Jenny and I were talking about this before we were on air, is you could have what's called a worry time. And that is if you're a person or if you have a child that particularly is a worry person, maybe they just are more anxious about things than other people or more sensitive about things, then you would have a specific time during the day. And in our family, we used to do this at the dinner table, actually. We called it roses and thorns. And we would say one thing that was a rose to us in the day, one thing that was a thorn, one thing that we learned about today, and one thing that we were worried about. And so then we could talk about that while we were at dinner. And it's one of those times where you have designated time to talk, to draw, to do whatever you need to do about your worry. And then put it away. So then you can sleep, you can focus, you can do whatever it is that you enjoy or need to do in your life. Like Ruby did, she could get back on her swing and really enjoy her time there and felt free. So that worry time can be in conjunction with the worry, bowl, book, box that's in your head, or like one we're going to make. So, Jenny, do you have a worry bowl at the shop there?
I do, although it doesn't look nearly as fancy yet as the one you're about to show us. I'm gonna need to do some crafting here. Yeah, I'll grab it in just a second so I can show
Okay.
what it actually looks like. But I
Yeah.
do have a box with a closable lid. And I actually have one of these at home too, although mine is just a mason jar at home,
Yeah.
where I like to jot down things. And honestly, I hadn't thought of it as a worry box before. I'm gonna start calling it that. I was given the great idea of like if something is preventing you from sleeping, because I was having a hard time sleeping for a little bit,
Yeah.
and it was worry. It was worry and it was stress. Write down the things that are causing you to lose sleep and put them in the jar. And
Oh,
that act in and of itself will separate you from that worry, right? Like,
yes.
even if you don't, like you said, even if you don't do anything with it, I felt the difference of just writing it down, getting it out of my brain, putting
Yeah.
it in a jar, and it made me more conscientious moving forward. So yeah, I'll pull down the one I have at the store.
All right.
But I'm also going to be making a much fancier one after this.
Oh, great. All right. Excellent. Thank you. So what I did is I just really literally went on Pinterest and looked up worry boxes. And so they gave me a whole list of things to get together that I just pulled from home, which we will post the link to this. So they said to get a Kleenex box. So I grabbed an old, this was actually a full Kleenex box and I just took all the Kleenex out of it. And then they said paper and paint and all this other stuff. Well, I didn't really want to get out all the paints and everything. And I liked the design on this box, so I just left it. But I did have some scrap paper that I just got together and you'll see I cut it up. And I had some scissors. And I just happened, because of Gilda's Club, have some sort of fancy scissors. These are from there. And then I have some straight scissors, so I grabbed those. And it asked for popsicle sticks. I don't have any, so I have this straw, and I use that. And then a marker and some pencils. I have a little bit of an obsession with Sharpie markers. So I have a few of those around the house. Anyway,
You're not alone. Not alone at
goodness.
all the office and craft supplies.
Yes. So then I had a hot glue gun, and then I also had a glue stick. So I used those, and that's all. Oh, and then it asked for pipe cleaners. I didn't have that, but I did have a bunch of old yarn, and so I just used that. And so there's directions on there, but you cut out a mouth. So I just cut some squigglies. And what we're making, so I'm going to go back again. We're going to make a worry monster. So this
I
is
love
my
it so
worry
much.
monster.
I love it.
He really is kind of fun.
Really fun.
And so I made the teeth and I just glued it on the inside, and you can do it however you want. And then I just, cut out some eyes. And then I added hands because I just felt like it. And then it has a little sign there that says feed me. And then it says yum. And
That is delightful.
so it's very simple. And again, you don't have to do it this way, but you can. And now I lost my piece of paper. So this is a place where I'm going to feed my worries to it. And like one of my worries was Facebook Live. I always worry whether it's going to go okay and make sure I have all my ducks in a row. So I just feed him my worries. Recently, my dog Gary stopped eating and we were really worried about him. Now he's eating again. Of course, every time you take him to the vet and they get better. It's like magic. And so I feed him my worries. And, I want to say that one of my biggest worries is opening up again, is the whole mask thing and the COVID thing. And I find myself, even though I'm excited to be with people and be around other people and go to restaurants, I have a little bit of anxiety and a little bit of worry about it too. So I'm going to feed that to my worry monster. And so I can, just like you, Jenny, is have a place to put all of these worries. It's kind of fun. It's also, I find a lot of joy in just having this craft made, and I had a lot of fun making it. So if you have a suggestion of what I can call my worry monster, please let me know. Give me some ideas because I have no idea what his name is. Evidently, it's a he. I don't know. Maybe it's a they. But let me know, and I'll name my monster. And if you make one at home, we'd love to get a picture of it. And so send it to us, post it on Facebook, or send it via email. We would love to see it. And Jenny, you want to show us your box?
Yeah, well, mine is such so I'm going to be making a worry monster. So if you want to come into the store and meet a for real worry monster, I will make one. Just give me a couple days because I'm absolutely obsessed with that, Melissa. I think that's awesome. For now, I'm just using this very cool. I really like vintage pieces. So I try so it actually kind of fits that I can put little notes in here because it gives me a little bit of joy every time I use it. So I guess it doesn't have to look like any particular thing. But I'm definitely I'm gonna do the monster because I like the idea of feeding worries to a monster. Feels like cathartic to me.
Yes.
And yeah, I feel like I put in similar things like the examples you were giving, Melissa. So today I felt a little nervous about this, right? Like doing the reading on camera, and I haven't really done that before. And will I do a good job? So that would have gone in my worry box. I think I worry about my loved ones a lot, and if they're happy and they're healthy. So I often put stuff like that in there. And then I tend to get nervous too around anytime I have a big project or a big creative thing that I need to do. Even though I know that I can do it, I get so nervous and just afraid that I won't be able to succeed. So I find that my worry jar, worry box has a lot of those worries in there too.
Yeah. Yeah. And thank you for sharing those. Yeah. And we can do something about them, and we do them anyway, even when we have our worry. And so I love your box. I love that it's a lunch box too, because it's like, yeah,
it's like a vintage lunch box. I'm so into it.
Oh, I cannot wait to see what all of you come up with and what your worry monsters might look like, or your worry boxes, or however that is. So if you have any questions or thoughts or comments, please let us know. We would love to hear from you. Jenny, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm going to be smiling all day after this one. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to read that book. It's one of my favorites, and I hope that anyone who wants to learn more about that book or other books or the bookstore, you can always reach out to me online, or you can come into the store. I'd love to meet you all and keep doing stuff like this. So thank you for having me. So this has been great.
Welcome. Yeah, I'm so glad we could do this. And again, if you're new to Gilda's Club and you're on a cancer or grief journey, and you'd like to know more about our free cancer and grief support community for all ages, please reach out to us at 453-8300 or look on our website, gildasclubgr.org. We would love to get you connected and bring you into our community. So we hope that all of you are staying safe, staying cool in this very hot weather, and that you're finding some time to enjoy yourself in this beautiful summer. We hope to see you all soon, and maybe we'll see you at the bookstore. Take care, everyone.